We can continue
Thank you.
with Professor Kovtunenko's talk.
Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thank you, Adriana, for your
Yes.
introduction and your kind organization. Yeah, all happy that it works finally, so we can meet us and discuss us. And I would like to say that we plan and dedicate our workshop to the 7th anniversary of Alexander Mikhailovich Khudnev, who is my former supervisor. And he is not only the great specialist in variational inequality and cracks, but also in fission. As you can see, the big achievements as this picture. And of course, I would like to thank all who joined our workshop, because one of the difficulties, of course, a great difference in time. So we have now in Siberia maybe plus 13 hours, and in Japan plus 15 hours. So it already is a late night, and maybe it's even too late for Japan. Yeah, but thank you all who joined our workshop. And yeah, go into some scientific stuff. Of course, I would like to say our best wishes to the jubilee and to get further achievements in all fields of interest. Yeah. Okay, so go into our no, not this one. Yes. To our scientific part. Maybe I already have talked about the topic related to the investigation directed to hydraulic fracture. Maybe I will now we have more time to maybe to discuss more in details, who already knows the principal parts. Yes. Okay, so motivation of hydraulic fracture, it comes of course from well boring in Earth, aim to get oil and natural gas, or increase the production of oil and natural gas, a technology which is now very popular in geology and also in related geomechanical sciences. Recently we had here a long talk of one of the specialists in this field. Yeah. He can also learn a little bit about it, because it's complicated problem with many things. Yeah, I mean, the talk from Golovin takes about maybe 3 or 4 hours. Yeah. So we have also learned some. I also have learned something about this. First, of course, what we need to imagine the physics, some physical phenomena in natural way, how it could see what we can imagine. Because we cannot see inside the Earth, but we have some number of so-called fracture simulators. When we can reflect the real geomechanical data in some pictures, in some numbers, when we can model it further from with mathematical models. So he is one of the typical pictures. He is a wellbore where the fractured fluid is pumping inside the layer, and here appears such a crack or fracture, how they call this. This is a fracture is sometimes rather regular, but sometimes can be also not regular. But nevertheless, so typically we can see that the structure is thin. Yeah, the structure is thin. If you consider this leaf, one crack or one fracture, so we can evaluate the length may be hundreds of meters, while the height may be some 10 meters, yeah, and the thickness is very small, maybe 5 millimeters, yeah, so it's really a thin object. And this long structure, it may be the fracture may be very long because of the upper and above geological layers, which do not allow to go up and below, but rather in the side. But still, we can even have the comparable sizes. So therefore, we can model as a three-dimensional, like penny-shaped crack, three-dimensional, but also the typical to consider cross-section as well as vertical one, as well as horizontal one, to have a two-dimensional model. Yeah. Okay. From this point of view, we can get such a simple picture, yeah, from one fracture, half of fracture, or crack, like here. If we consider maybe cross section or just plain section, and some fracture, it can be also have long or not long, but very thin, yeah. And what is important that we have, of course, two walls of fracture, yeah, and the fluid came between these walls, yeah. So we have two fracture walls, and what naturally can happen that this fracture walls can be in some contact. It can be due to, as well as due to the negative pressure, as well as some inhomogeneity in the structure. Yeah? And of course, the aim is to allow the fluid going through the structure. Therefore, open crack, it is what the people would, engineers would like to have, but still contact is possible, yeah, between them. And this is exactly the idea, the phenomena that we would like to describe from a mathematical point of view, the contact between these fracture walls. Yeah? So, and of course, from the point of view of modeling, it is very complicated. Complicated structures consist, yeah, the Earth consists as well as at least two phases and pore phases and rigid particles. So it is somehow some poroelastic medium at least, yeah. And fracture is filled with some fluid, typically the same fluid which came through the fracture inside the body, but from the point of view of fluid mechanics, they are completely different fluids, because in the fracture, typically we have some turbulent flows or non-linear flows, while inside the pores, there's typically some linear flows, laminar flows, yeah. And consider it all phases together is rather, yeah, complicated. There are different approaches, considering some coupling flow, there is some problem. But here we focus us on the poroelastic model. So poroelastic model in the reservoir. In this sense, we assume that flow inside the fracture is already known, either from separate modeling or just directly from the geomechanical data, yeah, somehow known for us. And with this data, the fracture inside the crack, we just consider the poroelastic medium with the crack. Of course, the main idea or main topic main topic of investigation of interest is the propagation of this fracture of this crack. And here is also not so simple, because when we consider just usual solid with a crack, with nothing inside, then the stress situation inside the body determined the propagation of the crack. And here is completely another situation. Somehow there are always some micro cracks inside the poroelastic media. In the question, only they're open. When the fracture owns a crack, then it says that that is a crack. Yeah, that in some sense that solid modeling follows flow model. Yeah, this is completely another situation. And yeah, but at the first stage, what we just recently started investigation, it is first question is just the purposeness of such mathematical problem that I would shortly discuss with you. The subject of my today topic. That we would like to formulate the model with crack low in contact, with non-penetration condition, contact condition. So this is variational problem due to constraints, yeah, inequality constraints. And we will prove existence of such a model. And model is degenerate because we have two coupled equation. One describes the solid phase by elliptic equation, while the field phase is described by parabolic equation. So the degenerate system, and then they additionally allow so constraint, so all remains not so evident and cannot be derived from a classical result. And for this reason, we apply some semi-discretization in time and the Rota method, and show existence of incremental solution, and then pass to the limit the time discretization parameter. This is a general idea. So mathematically, we will consider some geometry. It may be 2D or 3D related to the pictures that I showed you, and we saw crack gamma, and it has two faces, plus and minus, and yeah, and yeah, the domain. Oh, sorry, too much. And we consider bounded domain subject to the Dirichlet and mixed Dirichlet and Neumann boundary conditions, usually in the domain omega with a crack gamma C. Yeah. Okay. First, we model the solid phase as usually in solid mechanics with displacement vector, linearized strain, and Cauchy stress tensor. Some elasticity coefficients A, and what here is important also specifically for the model to give some pre-stress. Pre-stress, it means it can appear as well due to the natural weight of geological layer, as well as can be produced artificially during the mining process. As a pore space is described by the pore pressure P, the fluid content, again by diffusion law, just mass conservation law, and the simple linear Darcy law, Darcy law. So introduces the effective stress as a sum of the mechanical stress sigma and the pressure P with the coefficient alpha known as Biot coefficient give us a coupled model. Yeah. So we can reduce variables and remaining two unknowns, displacements U in the solid phase and pore pressure P, which are connected by these two equations. First one is elliptic equation due to the equilibrium, while the second one is parabolic equation due to mass balance. In this parabolic equation, yeah, we have derivative of time of P and U, and therefore we need initial condition and the outer boundary, some standards, the different boundary conditions. The importance of what we would like to model is describe condition on the crack due to possible quantity. For pressure, it is just condition of flux that fluid can go through the fracture walls from inside to the inside the porous solid. So, given some prescribed fluid pressure PF inside the fracture, we have the continuity with the pressure in the poroelastic solid. And this is the Dirichlet condition. But for the normal time condition, the standard one is this one, is related Neumann type, but it does not account. It assumes open the crack and does not close on negative pressures. And what we do, to avoid penetration, we assume non-penetration condition for the chump with some related complementary conditions, which include the standard condition as a special case when the crack is open. Otherwise, it allows it to be closed. And with this speciality, we can express all governing condition as variational inequality and equality. This is again parabolic one, elliptic one. This is parabolic one. So what problem we have? The system is coupled due to this Biot coefficient alpha. The system is degenerate. We have general condition, and using previous result, it needs small coupling coefficient alpha. What is good thing that, of course, when we set alpha is 0, the system is decoupled, and then it turns into two standard system. And if formally the equations coincides with thermoelastic relation when we set P for the temperature, so we can use result from thermoelastic equation. And here it is known that if we differentiate the elliptic equation, we obtain a pure parabolic system. In this way, by Showalter was shown the existence of the system, but without inequality constraint, because parabolic equations are not good compatible with inequalities, and therefore we do exact conversely. Instead of differentiation elliptic equation, we numerically integrate the parabolic equation. And so in this way we obtain the pure elliptic system. So now we can state the constraints, namely, we discretize the time interval, some equidistant mesh, and formulate this recursion relation for each time step, and we have obtained just elliptic variation inequality, and we can see that the coupling terms that I told you, these two ones terms with alpha, they are exactly the same as different sign, and then they shorten it by summation. Therefore, we have good coercive monotone low semi-continuous form, and therefore the solution exists by Leon-Stopakia theorem. And then we have uniform estimates, uniform with respect to the time for the variables u and p, as well for the time derivatives du and dp over dt, and then we can pass to the limit in the incremental solution and show the existence. So there is conclusion generally that repeating what I told you. Of course, there are many open questions, further questions that we are starting to investigate about to describe somehow propagation. We are deriving the shape derivative. The shape derivative by propagation, by extension of the crack. This is some directional, one-sided directional derivative. There's a theory of Delfoe and Zalesia. They also look for the local singularity near the crack tip, because They are known for elasticity, but they're known for the poroelasticity. In fact, the people just use them taken from elasticity, but no any foundation for this. And of course, we can consider more difficult non-laminar, non-linear flows like Darcy-Hochheimer. Yeah? So there is some reference related to this talk, and once more, my cordial thanks to Alexander Mikhailovich. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Kovtunenko. Is there any question?
Okay, maybe I have a question. Could you please show slide number 7?
Okay. Can see them.
This one. Okay,
this one.
This one. This one. My question concerns, maybe I already put this question to you, but nevertheless, I would like to ask you once again. I see this initial condition 3 for you, for example.
Yes.
I look at the equation 1. If I put t is equal to 0, p is known at t is equal to 0, so I can find solution u for t is equal to 0. On the other hand, you impose the line 3. Line 3 contains initial conditions for u. Is it possible to explain this situation?
Yes, of course. You look at the quasi-static equation 1, but just take a look at the parabolic equation 2. When you have derivative for p and per unit, of course, you need boundary condition.
But this initial condition can be found from 1.
It is one possibility, of course.
But
You see,
you may obtain some contradiction. It's possible to
no,
find.
it's not contradiction, because see, generally we can pose both u and p independent. This is a big degree of freedom. One special case, when we put only equation for p and derive the corresponding initial condition for u from equation 1.
Yeah.
There's only one from possible all possibilities, and when we state both free u and p, of course it is more degrees of freedom. There is no contradiction. It is just what you say. It is one special case of possible boundary conditions. Oh, not boundary, initial, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other question? Okay, if not, let's thank again Professor Kovtunenko. And with this, you're welcome. With this, we close today's session. So I want to thank you all to participate in the 23rd CMAC, and especially for the speakers. Thanks for applying. We will continue on Thursday, and I invite you to go to the other sessions that are going on during this week. Thank you very much, and good day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Вроде получилось.
Да? Yes.
Ну, я минуту 10, наверное, подключался, это самое, я немножко опоздал. Я все перепробовал, все ссылки, но в конце концов удалось. Да, ну вы, наверное, уже спите.
Ну, пора спать уже, да, пора спать. Я рано ложусь и рано встаю. Для меня это, конечно.
Да.
Ну, ладно,
И ты сразу сказал, не, я, говорит, сегодня спать буду.
Ну, хорошо, ладно.
До свидания.
Всем пока. Всем пока.
Да. До свидания. Спокойной ночи.